Good evening. Welcome to Bhagavad Gita and our continuation on chapter 18. We are studying, according to Lord Sri Krishna, the perfection of renunciation. And we will continue there. Before we do so, let us offer our gratitude and respects to our teacher or teachers, those who are illuminating our path with the torchlight of knowledge. Welcome, Eleonora, Jaya Krishna in the Dominican Republic. Thank you for joining me. Let's together meditate on these beautiful mantras. Om Jnana Timoranasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuro Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Ishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Padantikam Namayom Vishnu Padaya Vishnu Prestaya Bhutale Sri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Dinamite Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastityadishatarine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama
Rama.
Rama Hare Hare. Okay, let us begin on our quest through the 18th chapter, the perfection of renunciation. I believe we left off at text 34. Is that correct, Eleonora? Do you have that?
We did 35.
Oh, we did 35.
Hmm.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We left off. We finished determination. Okay. So beginning with text 36, Krishna next describes happiness in each of the three modes of material nature. Does anyone know the three types of happiness that are there? Other than those that are elicited by the modes of material nature, there's three stages of happiness or levels of happiness or mindsets of happiness. First one is whatever happiness
Remember.
what's that?
I can remember.
First one is, I'm going to make it a little louder. I couldn't hear you that well. Happiness that we receive when our senses interact with the sense objects. And that we can understand is an immediate gratification. You see something beautiful, you hear a great song, you taste something wonderful, immediate gratification and the happiness which ensues. The second type of happiness is happiness when you live a moral life. Some people, when they're very moral, they live a righteous life, they derive a great deal of happiness being truthful and clean, and that provides a level of happiness. So gratification, living a moral life. And the third level of happiness is what Krishna is setting us up for, and that is happiness on the spiritual level. And of the three happinesses, only spiritual happiness is of an eternal, lasting nature. And that's why it is most attractive to the eternal, lasting soul. It is compatible with the soul's true nature, which is one of eternality. So Krishna now is going to describe happiness in relationship to the modes of material nature, the gunas, which we've been speaking about quite a bit. Krishna has been illuminating the subject quite a bit in this 18th chapter. So with 36, we'll begin. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys, and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. Text 37. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. So poison in the beginning, nectar at the end. Does that sound, can you make sense of that? What we can understand is
Because it
when,
requires effort.
what's that?
Because it requires effort.
It requires effort. Yes, absolutely. And initially, when you're putting in the effort, it may be austere to put in the effort. When someone works out, initially the effort is tiring and you get all sore. When someone learns a musical instrument like a piano, initially it sounds horrible and you can't get the finger coordination. So initially it's like, hey, what am I doing this? Why am I performing all these austerities? It sounds bad. I can't do a push-up, any one of those things. So in the essence of the mode of goodness, when we are inclined towards spirituality, we have to perform, as Eleonora said, we put in effort in terms of the sadhana. And there may not be immediate response when we do our sadhana. We're following regulative principles. We are doing a prescribed number of meditations during the course of the day. So that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And initially, it may seem to be very difficult that I can focus my mind for that long, that I can, do it repeatedly over a long duration of time. That's how Patanjali in the first pada of the Yoga Sutras describe sadhana. Again and again, over a long period of time. And that always brings to mind the quote by Henry David Thoreau, the great American philosopher and author of Walden, On Walden's Pond, I believe, famous. He's considered one of the transcendentalists of American literature, him and Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson. They're considered to be the two main people in the 1800s. I believe they were around mid to end of the 1800s. And they were considered the American transcendentalists because they were influenced by Gita and other sacred texts coming from the East. And Henry David Thoreau said that a path is not formed just by traversing it once. So we don't walk someplace once. If you're walking in a field, for instance, and there's a lot of high grass, you walk through that field once and there's not a path. You may beat down the grass a little bit, but after a period of time, the grass again will go up. But if you repeatedly do that, you walk the same path repeatedly, then it eventually beats a path. And then if other people follow in your footsteps, that path becomes like a little road. And then if it becomes very familiar to the local population, that path will eventually become like a highway. So this is the analogy that Henry David Thoreau uses in terms of having deep samskaras. He doesn't use the word samskaras, but he actually means something to that effect. We develop samskaras or impressions in our mind when we repeatedly do our sadhana, our meditation, our chanting. We follow certain principles. We get up at a certain early part of the day, because the early part of the day is most conducive not only to your spirituality, but to your health in general. If you review any research studies that were done on sleep and its effectiveness, the conclusion of most of those studies is that it is best to go to bed early. The best hours are between 8 and 10. And to rise early, and the best hours are between 4 and 6. And this is the most healthful sleep, and it is the most beneficial time that you can sleep. It gives the body to detox effectively. Those hours are very restful hours. And when you rise early in the morning, if you are performing sadhana, it is the best time to perform sadhana, because the passion of the day has not arisen yet. It's still very sattvic, and you you hear the birds chirping, and it's about as quiet as it's going to get, especially if you live in or around the city or suburb. That when you rise early, like 4 o'clock in the morning, it's fairly quiet. I live in the suburbs here in South Florida, and at that time, I live close to the ocean. Not as close as Jai Krishna lives. He lives right on the ocean, right on the beach. But I live about a mile and a half. And it's very, very peaceful at that time. There's a very nice breeze blowing at that time. And it's very, very conducive to your spiritual practice. So this is sattvic, and this is conducive to performing sattvic activities, or and experience the result, which is happiness, which doesn't come immediately, but will come after a period of time. Then we begin to experience it very substantially. And that's why Krishna says it may be like poison in the beginning, but the result of it is nectar at the end. He describes that as happiness in sattva gun, or the mode of good. Now, in text 38, so as happiness and goodness entails giving up interest in sense objects. It's nectar. Unlike the happiness derived from the mode of passion, happiness in the mode of goodness comes only after some time. To experience happiness and goodness requires practice, the sadhana that we're speaking about, and control of the mind and senses. In contrast, happiness derived from passion and ignorance is immediate and requires no practice. So 38 describes happiness as a result of rajagun, or mode of passion. That happiness, which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. So here it's flipped. There's immediate gratification, which is described as the nectar, but in the long run, over a period of time, it is not, it is poison. It does not give us that sense of fulfillment. You may get a quick hit, but as far as fulfillment is concerned, santosh, contentment. Unlike happiness in the mode of goodness, which only appears as if it were poison in the beginning, happiness in the mode of passion quickly turns to poison. Ultimately, happiness in the mode of passion impresses an increasing number of desires upon our consciousness, and thus forces us to take further births and deaths. So the heart is the seat of desires, and this constant interaction of senses and sense objects fans the fire of desires for immediate gratification, rather than gives us the contentment or the fulfillment that over the long run is much more satisfying. So this passion always means quick, action that is quick action, and distress which comes quickly as a result of this kind of action. So similarly with the happiness in a mode of passion, you experience some immediate gratification from the interactions of the senses and the sense objects, but eventually it wears out. It's, you can only eat so much ice cream. You can only do, so many types of sense gratificatory activities for so long before it kind of wears thin. Text 39. And that happiness, which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. Krishna next offers a one-verse restatement of the verses he has just spoken, and thus he summarizes the influence of the modes of material nature. So what are the characteristics of happiness in tamagun, or ignorance? First thing is no interest in self-realization. How many people have you met in your journey through life that just have no interest in asking the question of, why am I here? What is my purpose in life? That they simply live from one sense gratificatory activity, which is geared, especially by Tamagun, which is geared for that type of happiness, that type of gratification, which comes from sleep, laziness, just kind of sprawling out in front of the TV or the computer for hours upon hours, that kind of numbness of the brain. People usually, work very hard and they just want to be numbed. So the way they choose to be numb, way they choose to numb their existence is how? By, adopting a laziness that comes from being in front of a TV, intoxication, drinking, they can't wait to get home to crack open a nice cold beer or something like that. Or here in my area here, there is a medical marijuana place, and you hear from like around 5 or 6 p.m. on till around 10 o'clock at night. You not only hear it, but you can actually smell it in the air. People come home from work, they go to the medical marijuana place. I guess they got some doctor to sign off on them needing it, and then they do that, and they get intoxicated and kind of just talk what seems to be profound and is actually gibberish. And that is the nature of the tamagun, mode of ignorance. It causes us to be in delusion and to not ask the questions about the purpose of life. It is actually the intelligence that the human form of life has been endowed with to ask, to inquire. That's the kind of intelligence that we've been blessed with. And when we numb it down through association with the mode of ignorance, activities in the mode of ignorance, foods in the mode of ignorance, lifestyle in the mode of ignorance. What's lifestyle in the mode of ignorance? Regularly taking intoxication, unclean, disorderly, habits which fosters laziness, all of these things. These are the kinds of things that keep us covered and far away from any interest in self-realization. Text 40 is the summary of the 3 verses that Krishna just spoke. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, which is freed from these 3 modes born of material nature. Now that can be qualified. There can be a very advanced person that is called Shuddha Sattva. And Shuddha Sattva means pure goodness, which means they are no longer influenced by Raja and Tamagun, only pure goodness. But that's a very advanced spiritual stage. And the amount of souls, even within this limited universe, it's very rare. But in general, for 99.99% of the population, they are not freed from the interaction, the interplay of the modes of material nature on their consciousness. All conditioned souls are controlled by the 3 modes of nature. That's why they're called conditioned. Prabhupada once explained in his purport, the modes of material nature determine all activities, high, low, and in between, within every planetary system in the universe. Krishna is developing his summary of all the prior chapters. As a basic summary of the first 6 chapters, he explained karma and how detached work frees us from material bondage. Next, he summarized the third set of 6 chapters, 13 through 18, the Jnana chapters, in which work free of reaction is explained from the viewpoint of jnana, knowledge. When the eternal soul accepts that he is not the doer and surrenders to the ultimate sanctioner of all activities, the supersoul, no reactions are accrued by him. This is when you get into akarma, right? We spoke about earlier when we were talking about karma in the earlier chapters, we said there were 3 levels of karma. Karma, which is basically actions by duty, by dharma. That's called karma. Vikarma, which means actions that are under no restrictions, whimsical. You do as you please, not as dharma or duty dictates. And the reactions to karma are good reactions. Usually you get a good health, you usually good physical demeanor, looking well, you're pretty or handsome, and you have nice facial features, and your body is in perfect proportion and all that. These are all good reactions. So health, physical, usually financial wealth. You usually are either born into money or an aristocratic family, or you are able to earn money very easily, very well, karmically. So these are all good karma. Education, either by your circumstance, the family that you're in, or by the samskars that you have and the attraction that you have towards knowledge, you are in contact with and take advantage of opportunities for education. So beauty, wealth, health, and also the development or cultivation of knowledge. Those are usually good karmic reactions. The karmic reactions are bad health, also not maybe physically very attractive or very proportionate. So bad health, beauty, just again and again, you having financial difficulties, sometimes up, sometimes down, or mostly down. You can't just seem to get ahead in any way, shape, or form, and have no attraction to knowledge. Those are usually the karmic reactions that follow the soul, from birth to birth, as long as they continue to do the whimsical or vikarmic activities. Akarma, Krishna is mentioning here, when the eternal soul accepts that he is not the doer and surrenders to the ultimate sanctioner of all activities, the supersoul, no reactions are accrued by him. Krishna concludes by explaining the actual doer in the material world, the 3 modes of material nature. Those modes of material nature are what are pushing us, motivating us to be attracted, to be inclined in a particular way. That's why prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudharma. So the 3 modes of material nature, Krishna says in the 3rd chapter, are what pushes us and what causes us to be on the false ego platform. False ego platform means we misidentify. Misidentification. What's misidentification means? We are misidentifying as the body. The body is the self. That is the misidentification, which is a clear indicator that we are living on the platform of the false ego. So now Krishna will
Before you
describe the
go,
progressive journey through karma and jnana to realization of the supersoul. He will then reach the philosophical conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. And what is the philosophical conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita? Bhakti. Bhakti, in which the living entity not only realizes the supersoul, not only is there a realization, but surrenders to the supersoul, to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. Text 41. Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own natures in accordance with the material modes, O chastiser of the enemy. And here is a good place to distinguish between caste system and the varnashram system. Caste system was a perversion of what Krishna is indicating here, that we have a certain nature. Karmically, we're born with a certain nature. We're not clean slates. Okay, someone's going. That was Jai Krishna. Okay, we'll see you, Jai Krishna. So we're not born with a clean slate, that we're born with our tendencies. So these tendencies, these inclinations, manifest through guna and karma, through the qualities that we exhibit and the activities that we perform. So what are those? Chaturvarnam maya shristam guna karma vibhaga saha. So Krishna says, these exist, our psychophysical nature exists, and they exist in a way due to the influence, the predominant influence of the mode of nature that is there, that we are experiencing karmically. So when one is predominantly influenced by the mode of goodness, then they appear to be Brahmins. Not a caste system where you're born into a Brahmin family. And Prabhupada uses a nice example. He says, the son of a doctor is not a doctor. The son of a high court judge is not a judge. In order for the son of a doctor to be a doctor, that person has to qualify himself first. So similarly, the son of a Brahmin is not a Brahmin unless he's able to qualify himself by guna karma, by the qualities that he or she is exhibiting, and by the activities that they are inclined to perform. So when we use the term Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, we're actually saying someone, what is your predisposition? How are you predisposed? What qualities do you exhibit? Are you a warrior by nature? You see a lot of people that go into the military, they're very attracted to militaristic type activities, to war and warfare and fighting. You look at the United States, for instance, the special forces, and many of the special forces throughout the world. You have every country has their elite warriors, and you see the training that, not in Argentina, no, but in France, in England, in Spain. Spain has a famous elite force. In Kazakhstan, many of Russia has it. Many countries have the elite fighting force, but someone has a nature, an inclination. That's why, the draft system, you have so many people who end up with post-traumatic stress disorder because they're really not suited psychologically to be in war. And therefore, it's a great deal of mental strain and stress on them to the point, to a breaking point, actually. You have a lot of soldiers who come home from warfare who are afflicted with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. They're highly anxious, and they're usually put on some kind of drug. So this is because it's not their nature. So Krishna says that you can identify, and this is very important for us, because if we study the modes of material nature, we look at the various symptoms of someone in the mode of goodness, how they act, how they work, the type of happiness that they pursue, all of these different things that Krishna is describing. It gives us a really good insight. If we cultivate an awareness of the modes of material nature, it gives us a really good insight into the psychological disposition of people that we are dealing with. We can go very much into it. Is that a hand up that I see?
Yeah.
Eleanor? Okay.
Because I don't want to go away from this, because then I don't remember. Is a Shuddha Sattva a Shiva Mukta?
Jivan Mukta, liberated soul? Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Why do you call it like that and not Shiva Mukta?
Well, Shuddha Sattva is another way to describe someone who is in pure spiritual consciousness and therefore is not influenced by the lower modes of Raja and Tamagun. So Shuddha Sattva means pure goodness. It means clarity, knowledge of the Supreme and their relationship with the Supreme. It means all those things, but there's not Raja and Tamagun that's interacting with goodness.
And then about this caste or opposite to Varna, do you think that is the way Indian society lives?
You mean caste system?
Yeah. No, yeah,
I
not
think
Varna.
I think a lot of Indians, Bharat, you could probably confirm this, having been born and raised in India. But a lot of Indians, it's kind of like inbuilt in the culture.
Right.
They do see in that regard. Only, those that are more educated spiritually see beyond caste system. And but I think in general, in Indian culture, Hindu culture, people do see like that. Would you agree, Bharat, with what I'm saying?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So
I agree.
this day and age, yeah, it's a thing of the past. I mean, depending on the person, how they live their life, that's the way they like. If you go to person's house and then he's a meat eater or something like that, then like devotees don't go to their places as such. But not like like before that there were four divisions like Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
We don't go by the surname like, okay, I'm Patel, so I'm like by default I'm a Vaishya, like as and somebody is like Trivedi, then becomes Brahmin. It's not like that anymore.
You think that Kali Yuga has worn away that's one of the good aspects of Kali Yuga, that has kind of worn down the to look down upon people. I think what we're indicating here, it's not wrong to recognize one's psychophysical nature. They even have, what is it called, the personality index guide or something to that effect. Psychologists have that, and they can identify a personality type, a type, or that type of thing. So that is there in psychology. It certainly has no relationship to caste system, but certainly it's been recognized in the world of psychology that there are, personality indicators that, someone can be a type A person, an aggressive person, and by nature, and another person could be a very passive person by nature. But I think what Bharat's saying is the stringent view where a Brahmin would not associate. But Bharat, let me ask you this. Still, arranged marriages is, maybe it's not the, maybe not all Indian families do, but it's still prevalent in Indian society. I know just in our own community that we associate with, in the programs that we go to, many of our friends have arranged marriages. So there are some remnants of that. I mean, I see the logic in it. I can see the fact that, from a detached perspective, including astrology and, reviewing the certain character traits, I can see some merit in that. But I would say there is some remnants of that, wouldn't you, Bharat?
Yeah, it's still lingering, but I mean, slowly but surely it's disappearing. Like before,
Yeah.
like 30, 40 years ago, or maybe little less. Like there was we used to have like society of like, let's say, 7, 8 villages. Even if I'm Patel, I don't go beyond those like 7, 8
But
villages.
you're in the States. So that's different too.
What's that?
That he's living in the States, right? In the US.
Right.
Yeah, but
So that
But
would make a huge difference.
Yeah, what he's saying in India, there's an area like in Gujarat where a lot of the same families and villages of the same name or whatever, and they associate within those ranks and marry within those ranks. So,
And I
correct.
was
Like
wondering, the bandits, for instance, if you're not a Brahmin, you cannot be a pandit, even if you are a scholar in Sanskrit and Vedas and everything. But if you're not a Brahmin, you don't get there.
right. Proof of that is in Puri, in Jagannath Puri. And I know there are other temples in India, but the one that I'm very familiar with is Jagannath Puri. Because I'm white, I've been practicing Vaishnavism for 52 years, but I will not get past the front door.
Don't tell me that I'm a woman and I cannot enter center temples. So,
Because, in India,
yeah,
because you're a woman,
exactly.
no,
not
that's
because
not
you're
true.
white.
Were you
That's
there,
like
because I was there.
Where was that?
It doesn't matter because all this conversation kind of turned to a path that I don't want to walk in. What I'm saying is that to choose the Varna you want is not that easy. It depends on your family. It depends on a million things, but not that you're a Bhakta, so then you choose. It's not like that.
Yeah, but you also have to realize, because you're a Bhakta, if you're a Bhakta, and Prabhupada made this very clear, Varnashram is a way to organize material society according to guna and karma. For a bhakta, for a devotee, it really doesn't matter. Because you look at, for instance, the famous Alvars, which were 12 deep, deep devotees of Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu. And they came from Sudra caste, women, Kshatriya caste, Brahmins. And all throughout history, the history of Vaishnavism, for that matter, and specifically the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which comes from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Namacharya in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was a Muslim. And a Muslim is considered an untouchable from the Varnashram perspective. From the Varnashram perspective, you have Brahmin, Kshatriya, Brahmins or priestly class, the manager or warrior class, Kshatriya, the business, mercantile, farm caste, Vaishya, and the laborer caste, Shudra. That was all the structure of societies. But then you have the outcasts, those who were not even part of that. And because Muslims ate meat and they would destroy deities, and their belief system does not tolerate or accept anything that the devotees or the Hindus do. So they were considered even outside civilized life, because civilized life would be the Varnashram system, organized society where everyone could live peacefully and progress accordingly, would be according to the Varnashram system. Now, again, back to my point, for a devotee, it doesn't matter. A devotee's primary concern is not progress in the material world. It's progress in their spiritual path. And no matter what they do, any walk of life, be it Sudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, or Brahmin, I mean, like I said, historically, or woman, historically, you have some of the greatest devotees that walked the planet were women. You look at Janava Mata, Nityananda's wife. She's considered one of the greatest Vaishnavas that ever walked the planet. You look at Mirabai and her dedication to Lord Krishna. So they transcend this characterization, because really whatever they do as an offering to Krishna. Yat karoshi, yat asnasi, yat jahosi dadasya, yat tapasyasya konteya matkarusha madarpanam. That all that they do, all that they offer, all that they give away in charity, as well as all austerities that are performed, are given to Krishna. So if I'm a Vaishya, and like I said, there are many examples of Vaishyas who were great, great devotees of the Lord. One is Kolavech Sridhar. Kolavech Sridhar grew and sold bananas and banana leaves. And he was very, very poor. But yet he was one of the greatest devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that walked the planet. Haridas Thakur was, like I said, not even a Brahmin Vaishya Kshatriya, a Brahmin Kshatriya Vaishya Sudra. He was considered an outcast because he was born in a Muslim family. But yet, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the other Vaishnavas of the time recognized him as the Acharya of chanting the holy names of God. Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. They were born, I believe, in Brahmin families, but they worked as Vaishyas. So all of these designations are meaningless, really, for devotees. But a devotee may work within the confines of that, because psychophysically, it might be their nature. Prabhupada was a chemist. And, he was a chemist and he was a pharmacist. And that's what he did, when he was a grihasta. So I think Gorkashore Das Babaji was a cloth merchant. So, all these great personalities, it really didn't matter because whatever they did it for Krishna. So that's, what we really concern ourselves with. What are the qualities of one influenced by sattva gun, or it cultivates a sattvic lifestyle? A Brahmin, someone who's considered quote unquote Brahminical. 42, peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmins work. 43, heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of the work for the Kshatriyas. A Kshatriya must have what's called Ishwara Bhav. Ishwara Bhav means the ability to control others. But he must use such power for the protection, not for the exploitation of the citizens. What we see now, we see charismatic people take the reins of government or try to take the reins of government, and they may have some charisma, some speaking potency. But do they have the ultimate compassion and concern for the citizens? No. They because of their egocentric mindset, their predominance of influence by Raja and Tamagun, their ability, their Kshatriya-like ability to lead people is used for their self-aggrandizement. I think I heard one person say Vladimir Putin is probably the wealthiest, unspoken wealthiest person in the world because of everything that is under his control, all of the wealth and resources, etc., that are under his control, worth billions and billions of dollars. So you see, in this world, in the age of Kali Yuga, one may take that position because of their charisma and a certain potency that they have, but that just puts them in a position where they can step on others and exploit the riches and the power and the fame and notoriety and control over others for their own benefit. So Prabhupada clearly says here, that is not a Kshatriya. And there's that story of King Parikshit. There's a lot of, in the history of the Bhagavatam, there's a long list of Kshatriyas who were saintly personalities, Rajarshis. You look at the 5 Pandavas, for instance, Arjuna and his brothers Bhima, Yudhisthira, Nakula, and Sahadev. They were Kshatriyas through and through. No fear in battle, courage in battle. They possessed all of these qualities of heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, generosity, and leadership, but their leadership was for the benefit of the citizens. That is why Krishna sanctioned the battle of Kurukshetra, because Duryodhana and his followers were not exhibiting those qualities where they had compassion and ultimate concern for the citizens. Their behavior did not display that. Therefore, Krishna did not want Duryodhana to take the reins of the emperor of Bharatvarsha. And he ultimately sanctioned and encouraged the battle of Kurukshetra. 44, farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas. And for the Sudras, there is labor and service to others. 45. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now, please hear from me how this can be done. So we just have a few minutes left, and this is a great place to start off with. We've gone through the qualities of individuals. Any question or comment or observation or realization that you might have had during the course of our reading? Most welcome at this point. So it's clear, right, Eleanor, about the difference of what Krishna is describing as varnashram as opposed to caste system? Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so if there are no questions or revelations, observations that you would like to share, we'll end class here, and I'll start to prepare my lecture for Saturday, which is we're celebrating the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu this Saturday. Eleonora, if you want to go there, I think the name of it's on YouTube, and it's yoga. Bart, is it yoga of the soul or yoga for the soul? Do you know?
Yoga for the soul, I believe.
Yes, yoga for the soul, Eleonora. And you just, look at that, and there's live the whole celebration, which will
What
be.
time?
It starts at Bart, do you remember the time?
6 o'clock.
What time?
So we go, I think 6 o'clock it starts.
Well, the kirtan, I think, starts at 5 because it's on Saturday. The class will be around 6:30. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, here it is, March 23rd, 5:30 to 9:30, Eleonora, Eastern Standard Time. So the first part of it will be kirtan, and then so kirtan will go on for maybe an hour, and then around 6:30 there'll be a class, and then I think the kids are putting on a play about Chaitanya, so that will be very cute. So if you have time you want to spend with us, please do, Eleanor. Okay.
Thank you.
You have a healthy, happy, and holy week. We'll see you next week. We'll continue our study of the 18th chapter. Until that time, be happy, be healthy, be holy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.